First of all, thank you for joining and choosing the Media Trust for your afternoon content. I know that there were other afternoon content providers available. So, look, we really do appreciate your time. Before we jump in with the panel to talk about the work that we do and the partners with whom we do that work, I wanted to do a very sort of brief intro on the business and some context for the topics that we're going to be talking about today. So the Media Trust has been working in the background of publishing and ad tech for about 20 years. We work with, let's say, publishers and ad tech in order to help our partners, but particularly to help our partners' users, so people who are on the internet, people who are looking at adverts, people who are visiting websites. We're helping those people to be protected from the worst that the internet can throw at them. So that sounds relatively serious, so some context around what the worst that the internet can throw them might be. So when we started 20 years ago, really this looked like protection against malvertising and providing platform security services. If you fast forward to 2025, then we are required now to interrogate all of the code, really, that passes through ad exchanges, through platforms, into publishers. We need to inspect both the code and also the content. We need to find problems in scanning, we need to block problems before they run, and we need to do that across digital, display, across native ads, across video, and increasingly across audio as well. So plenty to do. If we're honest, really, and I think in conferences like we're at today, we don't really talk about these challenges in the ecosystem. We don't really talk about malvertising, and we don't talk about security. I think we've done a great job as an industry in pulling issues around IVT and ad fraud out from the shadows and into the public. So really, we're quite comfortable in protecting ad dollars. We've been a little bit less comfortable in talking about consumers and protecting consumers in the same way. So hopefully today we're going to give some visibility to those topics and make it comfortable for us all to talk about some of the challenges that we face day to day. We've, you will have heard today from premium advertisers with big budgets. The guys that we are facing in the industry delivering these kind of issues also have pretty big budgets. So last year we estimate that around $800 billion was lost by consumers to scams globally. So not only do these guys that operate in the grey market have access to the same kind of AI and data and innovations that we see for legitimate ad tech, but they're also really pretty well funded. If you can personalize a commercial message to a consumer, then you can also hide a malicious message from anyone except its intended target. If you can identify a buyer, then you can certainly identify somebody who is susceptible to a scam. If you can reach the same people and build the same scale, then you've also, in association with the tools that we make available, you can also cause huge challenges for internet consumers. Not only, as I say, we're seeing huge growth, we're seeing the amount of incidents that we detect day to day and month to month grow, and we're also seeing evolutions in the people that are responsible for these things. Not just commercial scam messages, but also increasingly government-led, state-sponsored disinformation, deepfakes, and other things along those lines. So a little bit of context before we jump into the panel. What is a bad ad? I spoke a little about malware. I spoke a little bit about the work that we do. When we're talking about ad review in TMT, we broadly go across three brackets. The first thing is it bad code? Is it safe? Is it secure? Is it going to cause some issue to the consumer or the browser? That's the first bucket we talk about bad code. The second bucket is going to be bad creative. So maybe it's alcohol, maybe it's gambling, maybe that's unacceptable to you, maybe it's something more sinister, maybe it's drugs, maybe it's weapons, maybe it's other things that occur on the internet that perhaps you don't want to see. And the third set is bad intent. So if the code and the creative is clear, then what's its intent? Is it trying to defraud you? Is it a scam? Is it credit card theft? Is it a celebrity hijack? So they're all pretty different buckets, but they all cause the same kind of trust issues for our partners. Lastly, before we get into the rest of the content, who's doing this? So who's responsible for this type of activity online? Well, interesting. Traditionally, it's been the grey market. So illegitimate products, perhaps long-tail affiliate platforms, perhaps advertisers of that type. But nowadays, we see other people participating. So as well as the grey market advertisers and affiliates, we see criminal enterprise. Every product needs marketing, doesn't matter whether it's legal or not. We see foreign actors targeting citizens, governments and infrastructure. We see nation-state propaganda and disinformation, and increasingly AI and deepfakes designed to manipulate public opinion. So this is where we are. We've built a pretty powerful advertising economy and a whole set of tools powering it. And increasingly, we're having those tools turned against us. So that's why we're here today, to start to talk a little bit about not just the ad dollars lost, but also the people that can be harmed, and not just about the fraud, but also about the trust issues that can have for publishers, for ad tech companies, and also for the people that consume the advertising that we're all dependent on. So we're going to jump to the panel. Is there a spare microphone? Yep. Super duper.
Waiting for you.
All right, and we're ready to go. Okay, thanks, guys. Hello. Okay, cool. We're working. So look, before I do the questions, let's do some quick intros. Are we all sat? No, we're not even sat behind our pictures. This is amateur. Yeah. Okay. So go ahead. Hi, Tom.
Tom Pickworth, Director of Technical Operations for Mail Metro Media. So I look after live site issues, new tech, and lots of privacy stuff. But this is for Daily Mail, iNews, New Scientist, and Metro.
I am Heather Carver, Chief Revenue Officer at Freestar. Freestar works with over 500 global publishers. We help them with their ad stack management, so identity, things like ad block recovery, obviously privacy, and making sure their ad quality is good as well. And so we have a saying, it's experts empowering experts. We're experts in ad tech and helping our publishers so they can focus on content and relationships with their users.
Hi, Samara from Telegraph. I work on the commercial team, but I'm Director of Campaign Planning and Operations and support all like the direct sales, partnerships, commerce, subscriptions, syndication, in everyone apparently. Everyone.
Perfect. Okay, cool. So look, first up, loaded question, bearing in mind the context of why we're here and what we are talking about. Is ad quality a big internal issue for you guys? I mean, we're here talking about the topic. I'm assuming we're probably going to say yes. But is it a big issue? How much attention does it attract internally? How does it feel for you guys as an organisation at the moment?
For me, it's quite a big issue. We have quite a bit of open marketplace inventory, and we've got a lot of people looking at the site. And so we've got to monitor pretty much everything and make sure that there's hardly anything slipping through. We have users that will email in if there's an issue. And then we also write about issues ourselves and from a journalist perspective. And we can't really be sort of talking about scammers and things like that from a journalistic perspective and then having it on our site. And then we it's quite exposed in we have a meeting at 10 a.m. every day with all of our tech team to discuss any incidents and all of our releases the following that day. And so if it goes on there, if there's an incident, it sort of goes on there, and you've kind of got 24 hours. You've got until the next meeting to sort of resolve it and have something to write about and say, look, we blocked this or we did that. And there's 90 people on there from the tech team.
It makes sense. My phone normally rings about 10:30, Tom, so the timing lines up. Samara, what about you guys? I know that there's been a lot of internal work at the Telegraph recently, some workshopping, things like that.
So I'm going to go the opposite way. It's not a big problem for us, but it's one of the biggest priorities. So that is before even my time in the AdOps team. So we built a very strong processes. So we recently ran a workshop internally focusing on all the client-facing teams, because one of the things is we do have like strong processes, and our response time whenever there are any issues raised is only 2 minutes, and the resolution time is 15 minutes, the average, and that is across weekdays or weekends as well. Office hours, outside office hours. But one of the challenges that we had is that we built these very solid processes with like more than 10 different layers of protection and communication between teams. But internally, there was like this lack of communication and clear understanding. So we did run this workshop. It was really great. I was catching up before the panel with my team to understand like how it's been the impact on the adopts day to day. And they've been saying that it's been amazing. Because one of the challenges is whenever things happen, the first reaction is we're going to talk to the agencies, we're going to explain everything that is going on so they feel calm and safe that we are taking these steps. But the sales, the client-facing teams, they want to know absolutely everything. Are you doing everything that you can? And with this workshop, they are empowered now. So it's been really great. Like the Adopt team feels like that all client-facing teams, they feel more comfortable whenever we are talking about ad quality or any issues that happen.
Well, it could be panic stations, can't it? I mean, we've all been there when the phone rings or somebody comes into the room or the editorial team call or there's a user complaint. So it can be panic stations. And I know that this isn't really a new challenge, and please excuse me, we're all relatively experienced professionals. Is there any war stories of, maybe this one might actually be one for you, Heather, because you can speak without being an actual publisher, but, any war stories of how this impacts? What is it? I mean, some guys here will know, but what happens when there's an issue, when there is an attack, when there's an outbreak? How do you cope with that kind of stuff? Have you got an example, any context?
I mean, I would say I like your sentiment that it's not necessarily a huge problem for us today, but it is a huge priority. Like, the technology has come such a long way. I think from the first time I actually used the Media Trust back in 2009 when I was at a publisher, it was a lot more wild, wild west. But the impacts are huge, right? It is extremely disruptive, especially in today's world of AI and publishers needing to create brands for themselves and closer relationships with their consumers. That completely ruins trust with the users that they're trying to build relationships with to come to their sites and get that front door traffic. So if you have mobile redirects and other malware, that completely destroys user trust. And so again, in today's world of AI, I think it's more important than ever. So when things like this happen, we've had more recently seen a lot of mobile redirect outbreaks, and that is just catastrophic. Publishers need revenue, but then they will turn off all of advertising and sacrifice that revenue until it's fixed, right? If they leave all of these ads on that has malware and they're trying to, play whack-a-mole instead of just turning it all off, it impacts their revenue. But again, if they don't turn it off, they could have long time, risk to having users never come back to their site again. So it's all hands on deck, and that's why partnerships I mentioned earlier, like experts empowering experts. We're experts at ad tech, but we know we're not experts in finding out finding the fraudsters and doing exactly what people like the Media Trust do, right? So we partner, and that's incredibly important to us to make sure that we're working with the right people, so that I call you at maybe 10:30 at night or maybe Sunday at 2 in the morning.
Yeah, Sunday at 2 in the morning.
But it does. Yeah. It creates quite a scramble, and it's very, very disruptive. So the way we deal with it is making sure that, A, we're working closely with the right partners who have the best technology to create this stuff and detect it, responsive customer service, and then also knowing, in the programmatic space, you work with so many different demand partners. There's the notion of demand path optimization and not having 8,000 bidders, but the reality is you don't just work with one partner. And so, again, working across the industry and with good technology partners in this space, you can determine, in my checklist, if I'm looking at a new demand partner, it's, probably don't work with those partners. They've had many malware issues. So that's another way we kind of prevent the scramble and make sure it's not as big of a problem as it used to be.
I think it's interesting you call out the revenue part, right? Because I think sometimes that piece goes a little bit unconsidered. You know, there's this kind of idea that it's, you know, the cost of doing business is occasionally there's a bad one or something like that. But don't worry, you still get the auction clear price, you can carry on. Whereas I think that idea that it is actually business disruptive. And I think also for upstream partners, the idea that that can actually cost weeks, months of revenue and trust. So not just the user impact, but also the revenue impact.
I mean, if you think of lifetime value of a user, and that could just completely go away, and if that happens too, think about the rise of ad blocking. You know, you've kind of created this issue of ad blocking, which then impacts revenue as well, because users are like, I don't want ads because I'm going to be potentially exposed to malware and other issues.
Yeah, so you mentioned the scramble. Like, who helps? Like, who's responsive? I'm not asking you to name names. You know, partner one, great. Partner two doesn't answer the phone. Like, so when the scramble's on, like, obviously present company excluded. Like, who helps? Who's responsive? Like, where do you go? What does that look like for you guys?
I mean, for me, I remember in the days without sort of media trust, it was kind of like you didn't really have any idea. You had to either replicate it, which was sometimes I would be doing it all night.
What's the app?
We had something in app. We had a sort of pornographic one. Well, it was sent through to me as some pornographic ad, and then this is like going back 10 or 12 years ago. But you know, and so I got the app, and I was like, "This is probably going to come at night." So I'm getting everything ready, and then I got the app guys to build me an ad with an app with a higher ad density, so I could get more and do it quicker. And I was just going through. Then I had a Charles proxy on my computer, which is like an inspection tool.
Charles proxy.
Yeah. And I was just doing this all night, and then eventually I found it, and then I found the company, and then I put the number in, and I tried every way of contacting them, and they were actually quite responsive in the end. But that's like an example without something like this. But other than that, it's, you know, these days, if you see something, it's like, okay, we found it there, here's the ad trace, send it to them. You know, most of the time now everyone's very responsive and trying to sort of, you know, deal with it. But you're a bit more protected now. And we would just, if an ad gets blocked, we'd just run another auction, and we can see it in our real-time analytics to see kind of the impact of something, but we can still see the revenue coming in, and it's not like we're turning stuff off. But we will turn something off if it's persistent and there's problems.
I would say with social too, it's nice when something happens, like, oh, you're seeing mobile redirects and you see the Reddit threads go off, and even like Beeler Slack channel, but we also, you know, then have partnerships where, you know, this has been caught before. So it becomes less of a scramble and more of a community effort to use tools to automate things, but then that social really helps to make it spread faster so it can be caught. And hopefully a lot of it is caught before anyone notices it, but when it does get noticed, I've noticed that it becomes a collective scramble, so you really don't feel alone, like trying to look at the code and try to find that bad ad yourself. That's the way it works.
I was going to ask Samara, actually, because particularly from a publisher perspective, like, you guys talk, right? I mean, there is, I don't know if you guys know, but publishers talk to each other. There is a dialogue.
We are not enemies. Kind of. I do have an example, actually, that exactly 1 week before we signed the contract with the media filter at the beginning of the year, there was, I'm not going to name the fashion brand, but publishers in the room will probably remember, especially if they are in the WhatsApp ad tech group, that everyone was talking about, like, this very bad taste fashion ad.
Was it did it have a, no, it's fine.
A half-naked woman, all covered in tattoos. Yeah. But when you talk about bad ad, that ad wasn't doing anything wrong. It wasn't like a bad ad, but it doesn't go in line with what we expect to see at Telegraph or other premium publishers. And before, like, we had not signed with you guys. So we first, like, heard from someone in editorial that someone literally, a lot of times this happens, someone grabs their phone, they take a picture of the screen just from the ad, so there's no other information that you can try to track down the ad and sends you. So we started, like, and then immobilizes the teams. So it was like 3 people in ad tech, the programmatic team, programmatic partnerships, people in Adopt, so like lots of people trying to find out where the ad was coming from. And then that's where the group comes up, because people start flagging that ad in the group, and someone had figured it out, and then we identified and resolved everything.
It's like, hey, Samara, so you're going to run about 1 billion ads this month. Can you find this one? It's a real problem for me.
Yeah.
There's John Walsh's WhatsApp group. I think there's a few of them, isn't there?
Other WhatsApp groups are available as well.
If you're a publisher, we're all part of that one. Well, there's several groups, but there's a publisher group on WhatsApp.
I'm interested. You guys talk. Clearly, this stuff is socialized. I want to bring this into a little bit more of a commercial conversation. So, is this part of your consideration when you're choosing partners? You've talked about socializing things that are happening, issues. I mean, Helen, you can probably talk about it in a minute, but particularly for the publisher guys, first of all, when you are choosing a partner for whatever the service might be, is there a reputational thing that you're talking about in terms of hearsay or communication, or is even from platforms like ours, is there a data asset that you can look at and say, well, actually, I'm not sure, revenue looks okay, trust and safety a concern for us? Does that come into your assessment now? Is that something you're thinking about when you're signing contracts?
Yeah, the partners that we work with have to be aligned with our values, our view for trust, like all the work that we are doing inside. We need to see the effort from the partners as well. The guys in the partnerships team, they do talk to other publishers, to other vendors, to collect information. But then internally, we have honestly, onboarding a Telegraph, if any vendor is here, they know how difficult it is, because there are so many steps, so many teams involved. So the ad tech will do a bunch of tests and onboarding process, the IT sec as well, lots of different teams will go through that, and it has to be aligned with our values.
Increasingly, ITSec and InfoSec review, we see as a third party to those transactions, increasingly we're seeing those parts of organisations coming in, not just how much money am I going to make from this partnership, what does the revenue upside look like, but is there a critical infrastructure concern here? Is there a brand reputation? Is there a publisher? Is there a consumer impact issue that I've got to assess before I make this partnership decision?
We had a partnerships person bring a demand partner to us the other day, and it was on the media trust list of a partner who had I think it's just making sure that you have a partner who can help you identify, if there have been previous issues, is really important to us in terms of vetting a partner, making sure they're, not going to potentially cause issues so that it doesn't become a problem ahead of time.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of ours is just, the criteria is about unique demand and how they're plugged in. Is it going to slow the site down? And then going through all the sort of commercials. I mean, we can give them a warning. We won't always know. We can sort of discuss it and see what other publishers' views on them. And maybe if none of the publishers have run them yet, it's sort of a trial and error. You don't really know unless there's some history, but you don't really know until
and then
you run them. And
if there's a problem, you can go back to the WhatsApp channel and tell the rest of the publishers that...
We don't always do that. I mean, hopefully we try and prevent it, and it sort of doesn't get to that stage. But we chat. If we've got a problem, we've got a Slack group with you guys, and so we can always say, look, who's this? And then we can look at it if it's unique revenue and we can handle it, and we're blocking everything, and then that's okay.
We've got a little bit of time. One of the things that I wanted to bring up, I'm sure that everyone is sick of the AI topic so far today. Other side of that coin, in publishing, huge spike in things like AI manipulated messaging, celebrity-led misinformation, even sort of propaganda, political hijacks, those kinds of things. As news brands, that's a real problem, right? People come to your website, they're expecting to see that content, aligned to that content, they see this kind of stuff. Are you guys okay to share a little bit about how that's looked for you guys more recently, the impact of those kinds of things?
I mean, for us, we a while ago, so I don't know whether it was AI, but they were using celebrities' faces, like I think it was Clarkson, Martin Lewis, and for some reason Boris Becker, but with black eyes on their face. So we've seen some sort of impersonation of celebrities and things.
Boris was the German IP target. Yeah, that was all it was. Yeah.
So then so whether, I mean, it didn't look like they'd put much resources into creating the ads. Whether that will change, I mean, a couple of ways I would see it is that if video inventory went cheaper and they bought more video inventory and doing sort of celebrity endorsements that weren't true, and they were using AA for that, or just maybe building a model that was specifically trained to get around ad blockers, and whether it's putting a bid price that's really, really high to see if it gets blocked, and other uses or learning how long it takes for something to get blocked, and building a model for something like that. But we're a publisher, so we're not really we don't spend lots of time on this. I guess you guys do.
Spare amount of time. Tamara, Jeremy Clarkson or Boris Becker? Sorry, that was a malvertising in joke there. So look, we've probably got time for one thing, or maybe something to wrap up. As active participants in the open web, the challenges that we've discussed about, the things that we're reliant upon for revenue, there's also been quite a lot of conversation today about perhaps the walled garden challenges to the open web. Despite the things that we've spoken about today, what makes you optimistic? Let's finish on a nice, open, happy subject. What makes you optimistic about your continued success and participation in the open web and the trust that you enjoy from your consumers?
I mean, I think there's a flight to quality. You've already seen the decline in MFA and siphoning buyer budgets, and I think that for quality publishers who are investing in journalism, I think that makes their piece of the pie bigger. I don't know if the open market pie will get bigger itself, but the publishers who are creating good quality content and not just trying to suck the budgets out of buyers and create, everyone's talking about outcomes, right? They will get a bigger piece of the pie and then hopefully be able to, maintain their brands. And again, if we have good quality vendors that can help, or partners who can help prevent, malware and bad ads, and it's never going to completely go away, but if it can become less of a problem, then the good quality journalists and publishers can create that trust and direct consumer relationships and hopefully get that front door traffic and not be relying on Google and Facebook, because we've seen that movie before.
Yeah, I think there's things to be positive. We're on a career and a company and a sort of tech that's on the way up rather than on the way down. People are respecting kind of news and news publishers and all the effort and resources that go into that. So hopefully that sort of continues. And I'm spending less time, in the middle of the night trying to replicate things, and I can just sleep a bit easier.
Go on, Samara. Wrap us up.
Yeah, I think just especially with the ascension of AI, readers will want to go to trusted fonts of news. So quality publishers don't have to worry too much about it.
No more AI slop.
No more. Well, look, let's hope that we can talk a little bit more freely now about some of the challenges that premium trusted relationship can have when it encounters the open web. And if someone wants to talk to you about these challenges, then feel free to have that conversation, because it's part of the work that we all have to do every day. And perhaps if we're a little bit better about socializing it, then we can be a little bit more direct about challenging it. So look, thank you all for joining us this afternoon, and yeah, we'll see you afterwards. Cheers.